Good morning, everyone. I'm going to give people a few more minutes to get logged on, so we'll start in a few minutes. Thank you.
Hello?
Hi, Josh.
Hello?
I'm just giving people a few more minutes to get logged on.
Okay, that's fine. That will give me opportunity here.
Okay, hello, everyone. I'm going to get started, and we'll probably have a few more people join us. Welcome to Cybersecurity Requirements for Government Contractors, a webinar designed to provide you with more information on the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, or CMMC. CMMC is a certification program that the government is developing for businesses to become compliant with cybersecurity requirements NIST 800-171. My name is Catherine Walsh, and I am with NBDC PTAC, and I will be the moderator today. NBDC PTAC is part of the Nebraska Business Development Center. We are a statewide program, and the government contracting services we offer include assistance with registrations, including the new beta.sam.gov, assistance with 8A Hub Zone, Women-Owned, Veteran-Owned, Small Business Certifications and Self-Certifications, proposal and bid review, and assistance with post-award processes such as debriefs, contract compliance, and invoice submission. We have moved to all virtual events through the summer of 2020. Any event scheduled on our page that can be moved into a webinar or virtual format will be. So please keep your eye out on our events page for updates and your inbox for emails. This Friday, April 24th, we have a virtual workshop that is part of our Demystifying Government Contracting series. This workshop will cover how to design an effective capability statement. We also have a workshop coming up that is part of our certification series with the Small Business Administration. The next certifications webinar will cover the 8A program and takes place on May 5th. You can find these events and a full list at ptac.unomaha.edu/events, which is also shown on your screen. You can always just send me an email as well. Okay, so let's get started with today's webinar. During the webinar, if you have any questions, please just type them into the question tab on your control panel. The PowerPoint slides for this presentation are already located for you to download if you haven't done so already, and they're in the handouts tab on your control panel. We will also be recording this webinar, so if you'd like to view the webinar recording, please send me an email afterwards. Our webinar today is presented by a local cybersecurity and AI research and development company, Redberry Innovations. So welcome Marco, Josh, and Josh.
Good morning. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, and I have switched it over to you, Marco.
Looks like it bounced out of the, okay. All right, so yeah, Catherine, I appreciate this opportunity to talk about the cybersecurity maturity model certification and how it'll impact businesses. And I also appreciate the work NBDC does for small businesses, especially the amount of outreach you're doing right now to help companies stay afloat and navigate these uncertain times. It's much appreciated. So thanks for all of that, and happy to be here. So we are presenting Redberry Innovations. As Catherine said, we are a cybersecurity and machine learning and engineering research shop here located in Sarpy County. Basically, that really means is we're a bunch of ethical hackers utilizing data science and machine learning to gain more ground in the security and cybersecurity world. We also do consulting in the compliance space, as well as kind of the general data science and analytics space as well. So we're a team of about 20, primarily cyber engineers and data scientists. And Josh Meyer, our senior cyber engineer, will be joining us as well on this presentation. Before we get started, I want to say that with what's going on right now, it is a kind of ideal time to look at your compliance posture as a company. There will likely be opportunities you'll want to pursue in the future, and we know that CMMC is going to be a requirement for all contractors and subcontractors. And so now it's really a great time to kind of assess where you're at with compliance. Not only will that help you more favorably, compete for those federal contracts, but compliance is also directly connected with your risk posture as well. And many of the CMMC domains and recommendations really will help your company with their risk posture as well. And I think right now we're all have had a wake-up call on global risk and resiliency, and that's something that Redberry, as our firm, really believes in to help. So I want to say that if you want to have a free assessment over where your position is for CMMC, feel free to reach out. We offer free assessments and are happy to provide assistance for your company. So my email is here and my phone number. Feel free to call or email directly. And Josh Meyer and Josh Blockowitz can assist additionally. So before I kick it off to Josh Meyer, who will be kind of leading some of the technical components today, just what we're going to learn today. We're going to learn more about what CMC is, the levels of compliance, how to assess your compliance posture. We're going to dive into the difference between information systems and physical systems, foundational weak points, external systems, pre-assessment preparations. You can't be audited at the moment for CMMC, so anybody offering to audit your company is actually doing so incorrectly. They're still waiting on some confirmations by the government, but you can prepare. And so what we do is called pre-assessment preparation. And we try to just help companies gain confidence in their compliance posture and be ready for those audits. A lot of companies just don't have confidence when it's audit time. And we think that, not to let regulations slow you down, still be compliant and productive. And our pre-assessment preparation work achieves that. And we're helping a number of companies in the greater Omaha area right now. And we'll talk about what that third-party gap analysis is and a little bit about the certification process, and then we'll do a Q&A that will open up to questions from those of you joining us. So I'm going to go to the next slide and then hand things over to my colleague, Josh Meyer. Josh, we're not in the same room, obviously, so I'll try to anticipate the next slide, but feel free just to say next slide as well, and I'll do it, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'll just say next slide as I need the new slide. Again, my name is Josh Meyer. I'm with Redberry Innovations. I'm a senior cybersecurity engineer. One of my many duties is CMMC compliance. We've just finished up a big compliance, I suppose you could say, project with a firm here, and that's why I was a little late to the call here, because I was in a meeting with them. So to get started, you all probably have a question: what is this CMMC? CMMC stands for Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. So what does that mean exactly to you? It's really, CMMC is really a way of bringing a bunch of different requirements and security requirements, different laws and all of that into one cohesive structure, specifically for DoD contractors or subcontractors. And it's just a way of unifying all of these different things like NIST and some of these other standards in one easy to use, I say easy to use framework. If you look at the framework itself, it's kind of a daunting document, but it does allow you to have a one-stop shop to go and look and find out what you need to do to become CMMC compliant for all of these different standards. Marco, if you want to go to the next slide. So you've got the CMMC requirement. Why do you have this requirement? It is to basically protect CUI, controlled unclassified information. This is different than, say, classified information, so, top secret or something like this. This is controlled unclassified information. It will be marked as CUI. If you have a contract with the DoD or a subcontractor, it'll be spelled out what is CUI. And the purpose of CMMC is to protect this data from leaking out into the public space. So it's not as critical as top secret or any of those other classifications, but it is sensitive. Now, as far as who's going to need to be CMMC compliant, if you're touching CMM or CUI, you will need to be compliant. And that's probably the first big takeaway of this is if you do any work with the DoD or you're a subcontractor on DoD projects, you're going to have a requirement coming up in all of the new proposals and bid specifications that you will have to be at least level 1 CMMC required or CMMC certified. And we'll get into the different levels as we explain this out. But that's the first big takeaway is you will need to be level 1 compliant for any kind of DoD contract in the future. Marco, if you want to go to the next slide. So a little background as far as CMMC. It really builds on the DFARS requirements as well as the NIST 800-171. In the past, to be NIST 800, that was a self-certified process. So basically, you as an organization, as a business, would go through your IT infrastructure, your physical infrastructure. You would say, okay, we meet these NIST 800 requirements, and then you would check off on the box for requirements that you are NIST 800-171. So it was very much a self-certify on Scout's honor type of thing. What the DoD found looking into some of these requirements is that, and it may not have even been malicious, but it was just, a business is self-certifying. They may not understand fully what those requirements are. They may have gaps that they have not been able to identify or just overlook. And so what they found out is there needs to be some sort of third-party audit to basically true up these requirements and make sure that everybody is abiding by them, and that their businesses are, up to speed and where they need to be. And so that's why CMMC was created, to kind of bring all of these requirements together and then put a framework in place to allow a third party to come in, a third party auditor to come in and certify the infrastructure and certify that business. So as far as who's this going to apply to, again, anybody who does business with the defense industry-based DoD will need to have at least CMMC level 1 compliance. Right now, there's about 300,000 companies that this requirement is going to impact. 300,000 are going to need to be at least level 1 CMMC required, or CMMC compliant. And when I go over the levels, I'll kind of call out who's going to need to be level 1, level 5, level 3, whatnot. Marco, if you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah, and Josh, I'd like to kind of reiterate that the defense industry base, it consists of 300,000 companies, more or less, but there's a lot of speculation that the CMMC will be applied throughout, working with the federal government itself. So it's a good time that even if you're not a DoD contractor, to at least address CMMC or NIST compliance and prepare, as cyber risks keep growing and the threats and the cost of cyber crime and disruption continues to grow. So we do kind of expect this to be pretty ubiquitous throughout work with the federal government.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Marco. CMMC is not just it's not just a good idea for people who are going to be doing federal contract work. It's actually a pretty decent framework security-wise for pretty much all companies, especially which we're going to talk most about today. Level 1 is like a basic cyber hygiene that every business should probably implement, as well as, even a home user can have a takeaway as far as CMMC level 1. So that's a good point, Marco, that this is not just limited to DoD. It's a good framework for pretty much anyone. So why is this being pushed so hard and so fast? If you know anything about the government, they don't really move very fast. I spent quite a few years in government, and they measured time spans in years. It seems like CMMC is measuring their time span in months. So why is it we have this big push? Well, it's just the massive increase in cyber espionage over the past few years. Things like ransomware, data breaches. I'm sure you've seen all of the different news on all of the different businesses. I won't call any of them out, but some really big businesses getting breached, getting customer data breached. So that's the impetus for getting this out so quickly, is because the world is changing, and cybersecurity is one of the big things right now and in the future that is needing to be addressed. Just as an example, and I've got a couple examples here I'll go over, why you would need CMMC compliance, especially level 1, if you are doing something really mundane. So for example, let's say we have Joe's Dry Cleaning. At Joe's Dry Cleaning, they have a contract with an airbase someplace to dry clean the airmen's uniforms. Well, on any given week, let's just say Joe's Dry Cleaning has been doing 50 uniforms, billing out for 50 uniforms. If we have a bad actor, a threat that is in Joe's business, say he's got some spyware on his computer, that's watching these invoices and seeing that, okay, Joe's Dry Cleaning has been doing 50 dry cleanings a week, and then all of a sudden Joe's Dry Cleaning is doing 500 uniforms a week. Now, if say there's a enemy of the United States that's watching this data, they can then infer that that air base has had a increase of airmen on that air base, so they know that something's going on. So it may seem mundane, but in the right hands, that type of data can be dangerous, and that's why CMMC has come to be, is because a lot of data has been leaked out that it doesn't looks fairly innocuous, but when you take it all and put it all together, you can infer other things out of it. As well as that, the DoD, like I had stated before with the 800-171, that was all self-certified, and they found out that a lot of the businesses out there were not actually to the certification level that they claimed to be at. With that, CMMC is at this point very much an evolving document. It just hit level 1.1 a couple of weeks ago. So a lot of the requirements for CMMC are still being tweaked here and there. For example, I just found out that yesterday that like a service such as Dropbox, if Dropbox is not CMMC certified, you're not going to be allowed to use that service. There is, and I'll get into this a little bit more, there is some other certifications that are going to be allowed to be honored within CMMC. So, for example, let's say Dropbox is FedRAMP approved. I'm just making this up. They are going to have some reciprocity with FedRAMP type approvals within CMMC. So there is some light on that, and a little bit more clarification. But like I said, this is an evolving document, and we're all just kind of trying to get caught up as best we can. Marco, you want to go to the next slide? So the CMMC model, it encompasses 7 main areas, 7 capability domains. I won't go into all of the details of those. If you want to, you can go to the CMMC website and download all of the requirements and domains. And those 17 domains are then divided into 43 capabilities. So within those domains, you may have 2 or 3 different capabilities that address different processes. And within those 43 capabilities, there are 171 actual practices. The 171 actual practices are going to be the meat and potatoes. These are the things that you're going to have to do. There's the check boxes that you're going to have to check off. For example, you have a password policy. Password has to be 10 characters. You have to have uppercase, lowercase. It's that type of thing that are in those practices. Today, we're going to focus mostly on level 1 because that's the easiest, that's the lowest hanging fruit. Marco, if you want to go next slide. So here's a quick overview of the levels of compliance. Level 1, again, is that basic cyber hygiene. Level 3 is going to be a more involved, more mature cyber hygiene. Just to give you an idea of where companies are going to lie on this grid here, there are 300,000 companies that are right now going to be covered under CMMC. All of those will have to be level 1. It's anticipated that between 20 and 30,000 companies are going to need to be to that level 3 CMMC level. And then the level 4 and 5, that's kind of for the big guys. They're estimating that maybe 0.2% of all contractors are going to need to hit that level 4 and that level 5. Mark, if you want to go to the next slide there. So if you do decide to read through the CMMC, and I recommend, it's not great reading, but I recommend you go and start taking a look and at least getting a little bit familiar with it. But each practice is broken down to domain level and practice number. So to read the CMMC document, you're going to have the domain. So say the domain access control is going to be AC. Then you're going to have AC dot, you're going to have the level number. So AC dot 1 is access control, CMMC level 1. Then you're going to have the specific practice number after that. So you have another dot and say 23. So access control level 1, practice 23 is going to be AC 1.23. Marco, if you want to go to the next slide. This is just a quick, this is the actual CMMC from the CMMC website. Just an example of the access control. You see access control is the main domain, and under that you've got the capability C001, and then under that capability are the different practices. So AC 1.001, limit information system access. Once you get used to it, it's pretty easy to drill down and find what you need. But it is a little daunting when you first take a look at it and first try to understand how it all works. Marco, if you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah, Josh, with the domains, we're seeing on this slide the example of access control, and there are 17 domains, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So.
Yeah, and those domains can have any number of capabilities. It varies depending on what is required. So within those domains, then there is also those levels. So you have access control level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. So level 1, which is what everybody is going to be concerned about, at least initially. It's pretty low-hanging fruit. It covers 17 specific practices. These are basic cyber hygiene that really any business, any organization, any home user should be following. Things like having a password on all accounts that's unique to that account, having a password requirement as far as length and number of characters, uppercase, lowercase, that type of thing. It's all real basic, pretty low budget to implement level 1. I'm not going to say that it's not going to cost something. That'll be on a case-by-case basis, but it is like I said, low-hanging fruit, and should be pretty easy for any organization to implement. Lost my train of thought here. Mark, if you want to go to the next slide, I think that covers level 1 there. So level 1, the main concern with level 1 is, again, to protect that CUI information. And it does that through several different methods. The first is to basically limit access to that data based on a username or password or a key or something like that. In addition, putting limits on information systems. So if you have a website that you're going to that you're accessing CUI type data, that needs to have a username or a password on it, and encryption, and making sure that nobody can sniff the data or access that data. Again, really basic controls that are easy to implement. It also, CMMC level 1 also speaks to the control of information on publicly accessible systems. So you need to be aware that you cannot post CMMC CUI data to, say, a Twitter or a Facebook or something like that. You need to have a policy in place that says you cannot. And I know it seems stupid that you would put CUI data on Twitter or something, but you need to have a policy in place. And that's another simple thing where you just write a quick policy, say, you can't post this to a public space. Again, very basic, very easy to implement. Marco, you want to go to the next one? So as far as what CMMC level 1 is going to cover, information systems, that's pretty obvious. Servers, maintenance, patching, making sure you're running an antivirus on your computer, that type of thing. That's some of that basic cybersecurity some practices. You're also going to have physical security. So CMMC level 1 is also going to speak to the physical security of your facility. Do you have keys on doors to prevent people from just walking in? Do you have a visitor log of people who have come in? Are you escorting visitors while they're within your facility? That type of thing. Basic physical security that most any business should be addressing. And then also external systems, so cloud providers, your OneDrives, your Microsoft Azure, your AWS. All of these systems are covered under CMMC and have different requirements within that framework. Marco, you want to go to the next slide? So as Marco pointed out earlier, CMMC, there are no auditors at this point with CMMC. You can't go to a third party and say, hey, I'd like to be audited next month. That just does not exist right now. A little background as far as how that goes. The CMMC has created, or the DoD has created basically a third-party nonprofit organization that will do the auditor training and lay out the specifics of what an auditor is looking for when they do an audit and all of the requirements there. Again, that's kind of still in process right now. They have trained exactly 0 auditors, but within the next 3 months, the auditors are going to be brought online. They're going to get trained, get certified, and then they'll be able to go out and certify the organization. So what can you do in the meantime before audit time? My recommendation right now is to work towards that level 1 compliance. Again, everybody is going to need to need to have that baseline level 1 CMMC compliance. So work towards that. It's pretty easy and low-hanging fruit, like I said. So everybody should be at least working towards level 1. In addition, an organization needs to or a business needs to evaluate the cost to be compliant to higher levels. So are you doing higher level work? Then you may need to be in that CMMC level 3, and you need to have a plan put together on how to implement CMMC level 3, because as you go up in the levels, the requirements get much more in depth, and of course that means more money, more time, and so you want to give yourself as much time on the front end to get those issues addressed before you're audited and you have opportunities to bid on contracts that are higher level CMMC requirements.
Josh,
in addition,
this is all,
yep.
I was just going to say that this is all third parties can assist companies with all of this, right?
Correct. Yes. And we've done that for other companies, Marco, as you know, where we come in and basically analyze their infrastructure and say, here's what you need to do to be level 3 compliant. So yes, that's a good point. Did you have anything else, Marco, to add on that?
Nope.
Okay. in addition to evaluating the cost and what level you anticipate, you also need to analyze what systems are going to be touching the CUI. So is the system even required to be compliant? So say you have a level 1, everybody's going to have to be level 1 compliant, but then you may need to have a contract that is level 3 compliant. What does that look like? Could you build a facility within a facility that is up to level 3 requirements, and then have all of your level 3 contract work within that facility? You know, kind of getting an idea of what you want to do and how you want to approach it and what level that you're going to be at. Get that done now, because this is really rolling fast, and you're going to need to be there at some point. Marco, you want to go to the next one? So as far as auditing goes, all audits, like I said, are going to come from a third-party assessor. So this third-party CMMC accrediting organization is going to be training these assessors. These assessors will then come into your business, do the audit. Like I said before, the audit, we don't know what that audit's going to look like right now, what it's going to entail. We just know that it's going to take place. So you'll need to be ready for that. Probably the best way to do that is to go through the CMMC requirements, or have some consultant or something come through your infrastructure, kind of do a mock audit, ask questions, find out where you're lacking, what kind of basically do a gap analysis, find out where you're lacking, and what it's going to cost, not only in money but also in time to get to that level, that CMMC level that you want to be at. You also want to have, because different organizations use different software, you're going to need to have basically a template for evaluating software to see if it is CMMC compliant. Does it have a password strength requirement? Is it encrypting the data at rest? That type of thing. So you'll need to have a template for evaluating software. And then CMMC, this is an ongoing process. It's not going to be just a one and done. Organizations are, and we don't know what the time period as far as how long compliance will last for. Is it 1 year? Is it 5 years? Those are all details that need to be worked out. But again, this is a process. So as you're bringing in new software, you're going to need to compare it against your template to see if it is actually to the level that you want to be at. Level 3, for example, does it meet all of those requirements? If it doesn't, is there a way that you can make it to that level? So again, it's an ongoing process. It's not just a one and done. It's something that's going to just need to be part of your business process. Marco, if you want to go to the next one. So as far as the audit process goes, again, there's a lot of unanswered questions here. About the only thing that we know right now is it's going to be a third-party audit. What that process is, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, other than it's going to be based on the CMMC requirements. How is it going to be enforced? We don't really know. What we do know is that if a contract comes out that specifies CMMC level 3, you're going to have to be CMMC level 3 before you are able to even bid on that contract. So it's pretty much a go, no go requirement for in the future any kind of government or DoD space government work. As far
Josh,
as the audit process
this is Marco. I believe there's some audio feedback. I just wanted to make sure everybody is on mute if they're not speaking.
Okay.
So I don't know if you catch that, Catherine. So sorry to interrupt, but we will. Sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you for, I was about to say something. Thank you, Marco.
Yeah, no problem. No, we just want to make sure that those who have joined us can hear everything. So if you're on the call or participating in this, please be on mute if you're not speaking. Josh, I'll let you take it.
Okay. So as far as time period goes, as far as when our auditor is going to be available, initially they were saying early summer. I think with the COVID-19, that has been pushed back at least a few weeks, if not more. So I would not anticipate any auditors being certified until probably late summer, if that. And also, when will contracts that require CMMC be put in place? Initially, it was thought that fall 2020 would see the first very limited rollout of contracts that had the CMMC requirement. What I'm hearing now is that will probably be pushed back a few weeks or months as well, just because of all that's going on. As far as time period to be 100% CMMC required, have that requirement, they're looking at, and this just came out the other day, around 2025 is when all contracts will have the CMMC requirement. So there is some time to get in compliance if you have some of those bigger compliance issues. It's not going to be just like, December 1st or January 1st, everything is CMMC as far as on the contracts. That's not going to be the case. It's going to kind of trickle out over the next 5 years. Marco, if you want to go to the next slide. So here's some links to different resources. The first one is the actual CMMC website that the Department of Defense put up. Under that link, there is the CMMC accreditation body. That's the third-party nonprofit governing body of CMMC. So that is the organization that's going to train the assessors and create the audit requirements for CMMC. And then down below, there is a link at the very bottom there to a classification website. So if you have a question whether what you're dealing with is CUI or not, there's that nice website there that you can go and kind of browse through and kind of get an idea what is covered under CUI, whether you're going to have CUI data. If you have any questions, you can go there and do a quick search. So that's a really valuable link there, that CUI classification website. Marco, is there another slide, or are we done here?
So, Josh, I think that we'll go into question and answer led by Catherine. I wanted to say, if you do have questions, NBDC, the Nebraska Business Development Center, can help you find a partner to help you navigate this. And, at Redberry, we're happy to provide a free assessment and help you understand what you need to be prepared for. So don't hesitate to reach out. My email is on the first slide. And again, our largest customer is the DoD. We build and assess cyber applications and are entrusted by the federal government to do that. And so this affects us as well. And being a technology company with a compliance background, we're uniquely equipped to help companies gain confidence in compliance and prepare for these eventual audits. So it's wise to prepare now rather than wait and get ahead of maybe the opportunities that will be available once this is once the audit process has started. And like we mentioned, it'll affect every company. Nobody's exempt, and you'll need to have a third-party audit. So from that, I'll hand it over to Catherine.
Thank you, Marco, and thank you, Josh and Josh. We do not have any questions as of now. I know this is a complex subject, and so I might be getting more directly to you. As Marco mentioned, His contact information is on the first slide, which you can download on the handouts tab. Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions, so I think we'll end for today. And if you guys need the recording or have questions for your PTAC consultant, you can contact me or them directly. And thank you again, you guys.
Thank
we
you.
can try and schedule another one as updates come out and all that. So
Absolutely. If you follow Redberry Innovations on LinkedIn, we will repost this webinar along with one of our cyber engineers, Josh Blockowitz, wrote a very great kind of CMMC 101 piece that is on Medium. And it's another great overview that gets into some of the details. And it's something that we've shared with folks to help them kind of understand the basics 101 as well. So you can find that on LinkedIn and hopefully our website soon.
okay, great. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.